And if you look at what is happening with congressional Republicans in the Senate and the House, they're no better. I mean, Senator Burr is running for re-election in North Carolina, and basically he promised to his voters that, if the Republicans are still in control of the Senate, there will be no Hillary-appointed Supreme Court justice in 4 years ever voted on. John McCain said the same thing. We will never vote on a democratically nominated judge. I mean, this is a massive constitutional crisis. Right? I mean, presidential powers are fairly basic in their set out. They do have the ability to make recess appointments if Congress can't come to an agreement, but that's been gutted by the Supreme Court of all things, because they sided with the Senate, who said, well, yes, your little sessions where you gavel it, open and close it 5 minutes later, Senate is in session. So the Senate is always in session. It never, ever goes out of session. So therefore, there can't be a recess, and therefore the president cannot make appointments. And yet, so the presidential powers are stripped. There's no ability to appoint justices, and the opponents are clearly violating the advise and consent, purpose of their being. I mean,
do you think, Dennis? I mean, watching, and we talked about, that the polls actually are firmly in favour of Hillary winning, but what about the Senate and the House? I mean, because before the email thing, there was possibility of a landslide. The Senate had almost certainly gone. They were even talking about the House going. Do you think those now are at risk of risk of staying in Republican hands?
I think the House definitely. I mean, the House is so gerrymandered. See, the big election is not this election in 2016. It's the one in 2020. It's the one that happens during the year in which they conduct the census. You have to make certain that you have democratic control of state houses, because that's where the power to redistrict comes. And really what needs to happen is there almost needs to be a national agreement and movement towards a independent redistricting commission. Where it is in place, it works, and you don't have these little gerrymandered districts where, I mean, you look at some of them on the map and they look like a Venn diagram on LSD. I mean, the way some of these districts are drawn to ensure that they remain either majority Democrat or majority Republican. And, in massive states like Ohio, for example, a Republican controls, the fact of the matter is that you'll still end up with more Democratic votes for the House, but less seats because of the way the districts are drawn.
Right.
Less of an issue in the Senate, because the Senate, there's 2 senators per state. It's an entire statewide vote, and you can create a wave election based on, like President Obama in 2008, perhaps President Clinton this year. But you still face the potential in 2 years' time of it all going back, because there are more Democratic seats up than Republican seats, and the party that is in the White House typically loses seats.
I see.
Paul?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about what you were saying there, and that is that the level of gerrymandering, which of course is an American term, and the House setup is quite spectacular, and spending some time in Tennessee, it's not as bad there, but you do see some of it, and it is going to be interesting, because what position will we be in if for that 4-year period we can't do some of these legal duties that the American government has to fulfill because they can't appoint a justice, for instance? How long is that viable to stop that appointment?
Well, I mean, we could get down to 3 justices by the time it's done, and
exactly.
that's absolutely ridiculous. So some sanity has to come out of it.